Hey, what's going on, Archons? Welcome to another episode of KeyThoughts. This week is going to be an interesting episode for me because I have been, I guess for the past couple weeks now, on the secondary market looking for Dark Tidings decks. And in my search, I found a couple decks that have really hit home the point I want to talk about today. And that is sequencing in KeyForge. As well as that, there is going to be a card of the week this week. And we did the last draw the other day for the final bag of decks. Get in your Patreon support if you wish to be a part of winning some decks that I open here on this channel. I also have a new segment out. I don't know if you saw that yesterday or not. But I would love some feedback on what you were thinking of that. We had someone, Patrick, ask to do that sort of episode. And I thought, why not? Because I don't really want to open as many decks right now. I actually want to focus on doing some other stuff. I find it's not feeling as fresh anymore. I notice the viewership's down on those type of decks, those type of videos. So I want to go back into some analysis and looking into things a little bit more closely. But without further ado, let's get into the card of the week, which is We're gonna get the focus there. There it is. Frane's Blaster. So this is a Worlds Collide card. It's an upgrade. You get an Ember Pip, and it states, after you attach Frane's Blaster to first officer frame, move each Ember from first officer frame to your pool. It also has the fight reap ability of you may deal 2 damage to a creature or attached Frane's Blaster to first officer frame. Now, why do I like this card so much? Well, it has an amazing combo potential with Transporter Platform, because that means every time you're pulling up Frane, you're getting to throw Frane down again, capture another Ember, drop the blaster on Frane, and get that Ember back. If you have other ways of putting Ember on Frane, such as like a Xeno training or something, then you're really going to have this fun combo of getting that Ember off and getting that burst potential even stronger in that Worlds Collide Star Alliance, which did not need any strength added in any form or any variation. So I've just been really enjoying messing around with that, especially in this deck. Has a bunch of different upgrades in it with the Transporter Platform. For those of you who don't know, Transporter Platform is probably top 3 favorite cards in the game for me. Definitely one of my favorite archetype decks, since it exists both in Worlds Collide and in Mass Mutation. Super fun. I'm a big fan. It's really cool possibilities with it. So yeah, that Frane's Blaster, I just have had that interaction with Transporter Platform for the first time, and I love it. So that is why it is the card of the week. Now on to this week's topic, which is sequencing in KeyForge. And now I feel like the sequencing is in greater demand and requires higher proficiency than ever before, simply because in Dark Tidings you not only need to know the sequencing correctly of things, but sometimes the sequencing requires you to be grabbing the tide. And doing so actually sometimes is most beneficial to not just grab the tide and go, but you got to do a couple things first. Then you got to grab the tide, do a couple more things. And then you drop a Bilge Ward and the tide flips again, which allows you to pull the tide back and yada, yada, yada. Like that's literally the sequence of a potential turn in KeyForge using Logos in Dark Tidings. But there's other things. Sometimes you have cards where you're going to be dropping a card and it gets to use different things around it where you need to really get the order correct for maximum efficiency. I don't think you can essentially do it wrong in terms of, like, unless it does something that will affect you losing creatures because you didn't think of it, i.e. like dropping a Piranha Monkeys and then putting down your Chelonia first and then you kill your Chelonia. That would be a very poor sequencing and it hits you hard. But I'm talking about you did not get the maximum potential of Ember Game, of card effects, anything like that that could have happened if you had sequenced the process differently. So in KeyForge now, in Dark Tidings, we have all these cards that have play abilities that affect sometimes things entering ready, things being used on either side, and it's just a matter of you understanding how you can get the most value out of it. And sometimes you get these puzzles where you think, oh, I didn't do this correctly, but in the end it was same because you needed to either pull the tide, and then because you pulled the tide you get effect A, but in doing so, you don't get effect B to be as potent, and it just worked out that it was the same Ember generation at the end. I'm thinking a lot of Operative Espeon and Rocketeer Triska. They got some interesting interactions, and I think those two actually provide this kind of real intense sequencing thought process that needs to happen, especially if you got a Unity or Discord and you can pull some creatures back, drop them next to Triska again. So it's really interesting that there is this sequencing. I don't want to call it dilemma, but it's a puzzle, and you got to figure it out. And that is where getting those reps in and really understanding it comes into play. There's also cool sequencing events, I think, that exist now in KeyForge with the dinos. Oddly enough, they have some really cool things where you need to move Ember around to get maximum potential. You have things like Curiosaurus that also create the sequencing to be very precise, or you can essentially hurt yourself. And there's these more steps, and I think it just requires this higher proficiency with decks. You need to kind of get used to playing them, figure it out, see what it's all about, and kind of advance forward within the game as a result. And I'm liking it. So I'm kind of in this point now where I also don't want to open decks more, because I want to start looking back on decks that I have and really starting to do those deep dives and figure out what is in store with those decks for the true maximum potential. So any decks now that I have that I think have really complex sequencing, I actually want to spend time with them, get those 20 plus games in, and really start to see how easily it can be done, how much I'm being stymied by that, or is it just flowing real nice? Because that's what I would like, especially if I'm going to start bringing them out to tournaments and stuff like that. Time will start being a thing that is more accountable than it has in the past, with IRL play starting to be coming back in more of a normalized setting. So yeah, I just wanted to pose this out here, and I have just kind of throwing it out. Does anyone else have any sequencing stories maybe, or what are their thoughts in sequencing in KeyForge now? So please comment below, let me know your thoughts, or hit me up on Twitter at Boulevard Blake, that's BLVD Blake, and share those with me. And as always, folks, may your Ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.